Admiral James Walker stood at the large window of the Earth Defense Force ship Relentless, his eyes fixed on the massive space station ahead. The Galactic Council headquarters looked impressive against the backdrop of stars, its curved arms stretching out like a giant metal flower. 10 years ago, when humans first joined the Council, the sight had filled him with hope. Today, it only made his stomach twist with anger. "Admiral, you need to see this." Lieutenant Kira Reed rushed into the observation deck, her face pale. She held a small data pad in her hand like it might burn her fingers. Walker turned from the window. Reed was not someone who panicked easily. Whatever she had found must be serious. "What is it, Lieutenant?" "Intelligence just broke the encryption on those strange messages we intercepted last month." She handed him the pad with a steady hand, but her eyes showed fear. "It's worse than we thought, sir." Walker took the pad and began to read. With each swipe of his finger, his face grew harder. The data showed detailed plans, secret meetings, and hidden agreements between the most powerful members of the Council. The Morians, with their 3,000-year-old empire. The Vex, with their superior weapons, all plotting against Earth and its colonies. "They're afraid of us," Walker said quietly. Reed nodded. "Yes, sir. According to these files, they believe humans are advancing too quickly. It took the Morians 500 years to develop faster than light travel. It took us less than 200. Walker continued reading, his eyes stopping on a specific date. "This says they plan to attack our outer colonies in 48 hours. He looked up sharply, all at once, disguised as pirate raids. "Yes, sir. They'll hit New Mars, Europa Station, and the Titan mining facility simultaneously. The attacks will appear unconnected, but they're designed to cripple our resource supply chain." Walker put down the pad and walked back to the window. The beautiful station now looked like a predator waiting to strike. For 10 years, humans had shared their technology, traded fairly, and fought alongside other species against common threats. They had trusted the Council's promise of galactic peace and cooperation. "All eyes. Contact Earth Central Command immediately," Walker ordered. "Priority Alpha. Send them everything we have." "Already done, sir." Reed hesitated before adding, "There's more. The Morians have been stealing our technology. Those new shield systems they revealed last year. They're based on Dr. Miller's designs that were supposedly rejected by the Council as too unstable." Walker wasn't surprised. Humans had always been good at finding creative solutions to problems. Their technology often looked messy to the more established species, but it worked. Sometimes it worked better than the careful traditional designs the older races preferred. "Sir, what do you think Earth Command will do?" Walker stared at the station. The smart move would be to strike first, hit their key military outposts before they can organize. But that would mean war with the entire Council. Maybe not. Look at these files again. Many of the smaller Council members aren't part of this plot. Some might even be targeted next, once we're dealt with. Reed's communication device beeped. She checked it, and her eyes widened. "Earth Command has called an emergency meeting of all senior military and political leaders. They're asking for you to join via secure channel." Walker nodded. "Set it up in my quarters. And Reed, don't tell anyone else about this yet, not even the other officers." 6 hours later, Walker emerged from his quarters. His uniform was wrinkled, and dark circles had formed under his eyes. Reed was waiting outside, her posture stiff with tension. "What did they decide, sir?" Walker took a deep breath. "Something unprecedented. We're going to give them one chance to back down." "The Council?" "Sir, with respect, they outnumber us 57-1. A small, hard smile appeared on Walker's face. "Numbers aren't everything, Lieutenant." He handed her a new data pad. "These are your orders. Prepare the ship for immediate departure, but first, I need you to deliver a message to Ambassador Grant on the station. In person, not through channels. Tell him Operation Sunflare is now active." Reed took the pad, her expression confused. "Operation Sunflare. I'm not familiar with that protocol. It's been dormant since before you joined my crew. A contingency plan we hoped we'd never need. Walker looked back toward the window, though the station wasn't visible from this part of the ship. The Council thinks they know what humans are capable of. They've studied our weapons, our ships, our tactics. He turned back to Reed, his eyes showing a determination that made her stand straighter. But they've never seen what happens when humanity is truly threatened. They think they're dealing with just another young species, eager to please the galactic community. His voice dropped lower. They're about to learn they're dealing with survivors. Earth wasn't a peaceful paradise like the Morian homeworld. We evolved fighting each other, nature, disease, disaster. We've been preparing for threats our entire existence. What exactly will we do, sir? Ambassador Grant will deliver our terms tomorrow during the high session, when all members are present. The Council will have 24 hours to meet our demands. And if they refuse, Walker's face showed no emotion now, just cool resolve. Then we show them why they should have left us alone. Reed saluted and turned to carry out her orders, but paused at the door. Sir, do you think they'll listen? Walker looked at the data again, at the detailed plans for humanity's containment and eventual subjugation. He thought about Earth's history, filled with those who underestimated their opponents and paid the price. No, Lieutenant, I don't think they will. But we'll give them the chance anyway. He straightened his uniform. That's what separates us from them. We'll offer peace first, but they won't like what follows if they refuse. Reed nodded and left. Admiral Walker returned to the window, watching as the Relentless adjusted its position, bringing the Galactic Council station into view once more. You should have studied our history more carefully, he whispered to the distant figures he knew were plotting inside that station. You're not the first to think humans were easy prey. He activated his communication device. Bridge, set course for the rendezvous point. As soon as Lieutenant Reed returns from the station with Ambassador Grant, we leave. The betrayal was in motion. But so was humanity's response. And soon, the entire galaxy would remember why the ancient human warning still rang true. Beware the fury of a patient people. Ambassador Thomas Grant straightened his dark blue uniform as he walked down the long corridor toward the Grand Chamber. 2 guards from the Earth Defense Force followed him, their faces blank but their eyes alert. The massive doors of the chamber loomed ahead, carved with symbols representing the 57 member species of the Galactic Council. 10 years ago, when Grant had first entered these doors as Earth's representative, he had felt wonder and pride. Today, he felt only resolve. They're all inside, sir, whispered one of his guards. Full attendance, as you requested. Grant nodded. Remember your orders. No matter what happens, do not draw your weapons unless I am physically attacked. The guards nodded. They understood the importance of appearing peaceful, even while delivering what might be the most threatening message in human diplomatic history. The doors slid open silently, revealing the enormous circular room beyond. Tiered seating rose in all directions, filled with representatives from across the galaxy. Some looked humanoid, others were utterly alien. Floating gas-filled sacks, crystalline structures, or multi-limbed insectoids. All turned to watch as Grant entered. At the center of the chamber stood the speaker's platform, currently occupied by Archspeaker Telvin of the Morian Empire. His purple skin and 4 eyes were common features of his ancient species. The Morians had been founding members of the Council 10,000 years ago. Ambassador Grant. Telvin's voice echoed through the chamber. The Council did not expect Earth's presence today. We have many important matters to discuss. I'm sure you do, Grant replied, his voice steady. I request emergency speaking privileges. A murmur ran through the chamber. Emergency privileges were rarely granted and allowed a speaker to address the full council uninterrupted. Telvin's upper eyes narrowed. On what grounds? Threat to galactic peace and security, Grant answered. Article 7, Section 3 of the Council Charter. The Archspeaker couldn't refuse without violating the Charter. Very well. The Council recognizes Earth, Ambassador Grant, you have the floor. Grant stepped onto the central platform as Telvin moved aside, clearly annoyed. The human ambassador took a small device from his pocket and placed it on the podium before him. Representatives of the Galactic Council, he began, his voice now amplified throughout the chamber. For 10 years, Earth has been a loyal member of this body. We have shared our technology, opened our borders to trade, and contributed to joint defense initiatives. He paused, looking around at the assembled faces. Some wouldn't show human recognizable emotions, but he could see confusion, curiosity, and in a few cases, growing unease. In return, certain members of this council have conspired against us. Grant pressed a button on his device. Suddenly, the chamber's main holographic display activated. Messages, plans, and meeting minutes appeared in the air for all to see, the same encrypted files that Admiral Walker had received. These documents, which we have verified as authentic, reveal a plot to attack Earth colonies within the next 48 hours. The chamber erupted in noise. Some representatives jumped to their feet in surprise or outrage. Others sat in stunned silence. A few, notably the Morians and the Vex, remained suspiciously calm. Grant raised his voice over the din. The attacks were to be disguised as pirate raids, but their true purpose was clear: to cripple human expansion and steal our technology. The Vex representative, Commander Draz, stood up. His metallic skin reflected the lights of the chamber as he pointed an accusing finger at Grant. These are forgeries. The human delegation is trying to distract from their own violations of Council technology sharing protocols. Grant smiled thinly. If they were forgeries, Commander, how would I know about the meeting you held 3 days ago in the Praxis system? Or about your new shield technology, reverse-engineered from Dr. Miller's designs, that your own scientists claimed were fundamentally flawed when we presented them last year? Draz's silver face couldn't show pallor, but his four-fingered hand dropped slightly. The truth, Grant continued, is that some of you fear us. Humans advanced too quickly for your comfort. We solved problems in ways you didn't expect. We didn't follow the careful, plodding path that your species took over millennia. He looked directly at Archspeaker Telvin. And so you decided to put us in our place, before we became too powerful to control. Telvin stepped forward. These are serious accusations, Ambassador Grant. Even if some elements of the Council acted inappropriately, surely we can resolve this through proper channels. No, Grant cut him off. The time for talk is over. Earth has authorized me to deliver our terms. He touched his device again, and new text appeared on the holographic display. 1. Immediate dissolution of the current Council leadership and full investigation into their actions. 2. Complete reparations for sabotaged colonies and stolen technology. 3. A new treaty recognizing Earth's full sovereignty and right to independent defense. The chamber grew completely silent as Grant delivered the final part of his message. You have 24 hours to comply with these terms. If they are not met, humanity withdraws from the Galactic Council permanently. His voice hardened. And you would be wise to put as much distance between yourselves and human space as possible. Commander Draz laughed, the sound echoing metallically through the silent chamber. And what will your species do against 56 others, human? Your fleets are outnumbered 100 to 1. Your colonies could be reduced to ash with a single order. Grant looked at the Vex commander, his expression calm, but his eyes hard. Run, he said simply. Then he collected his device, turned his back on the stunned assembly, and walked out of the grand chamber. His guards fell in behind him, leaving absolute silence in their wake. 3 hours later, the council voted. The final tally: 52 members in favor of rejecting Earth's outrageous demands, 3 abstentions, and 2 votes in support of negotiation. Archspeaker Telvin addressed the council after the vote. The humans have clearly lost their senses. Perhaps they were not ready for membership after all. We will proceed with containment measures as planned, but accelerated to prevent any further human aggression. As the representatives filed out, A small, insect-like being approached the Morian leader. "Speaker Telvin, my government is concerned. What if the humans truly have some hidden capability?" Their ambassador seemed very confident. Telvin looked down at the representative with all four eyes. "The humans are bluffing. They're clever and unpredictable, yes, but they're still a young species. Their confidence is nothing but arrogance." Unknown to the departing council members, a human surveillance drone hidden in the chamber's decorative ceiling transmitted everything back to the waiting Earth fleet. Admiral Walker received the council's decision while standing on the bridge of the Relentless. He wasn't surprised. "They've made their choice," he said to Lieutenant Reed. "Send the signal to all Earth forces. Operation Sunflare is now fully active." Reed hesitated for just a moment. "This will change everything." "Sir." Walker nodded. "Yes, it will. Let's hope they learn to run fast." General Draz stood on the command deck of the Inevitable Victory, flagship of the combined Galactic Council fleet. Around him, over 200 warships moved in perfect formation toward the Sol system. Most belonged to the Morians and the Vex, but nearly every Council species had contributed at least one vessel to the massive armada. "Status report," Draz ordered, his metallic fingers tapping against the command console. His second-in-command, a Morian named Kelver, approached with a data tablet. "All ships report ready, General. We will reach Earth's outer defense perimeter in 30 minutes. Draz nodded. "Any sign of human resistance?" "None, sir. Our scouts report that the human defense platforms around Neptune and Uranus have been powered down. We've detected no military vessels in the outer system." This wasn't what Draz had expected. The humans should have been scrambling their ships, manning their defenses. Their 24-hour deadline had passed 6 hours ago. "Could they have evacuated?" Kelver asked, his four eyes blinking in sequence. "Impossible," Draz replied. "Earth has 10 billion inhabitants. They couldn't possibly evacuate in 30 hours. But doubt crept into his circuits. The human ambassador's single-word warning, "Run," played again in his memory banks. "Approach with caution," he ordered. "Full scans of the entire system. I want to know where their ships are hiding." The massive fleet continued inward, passing Neptune's orbit with no resistance. The blue gas giant's moons showed abandoned human mining facilities, hastily evacuated. The pattern repeated at Uranus. "Sir," Kelvor reported, his voice uncertain. "Long-range scans of Earth show normal population levels. Their orbital stations appear intact but empty." "What about their military installations on Mars and their moon?" "The Mars defense base reads as fully staffed, but their weapon systems are offline." "The lunar base?" Kelver paused, checking his readings again. "The lunar base is showing unusual energy signatures, nothing we've seen from humans before." Draz's silver face couldn't show expressions, but his posture stiffened. "Specific location?" "The far side of the moon, sir. The area they call the Daedalus Crater. Maintain course, but have the fleet spread out. Whatever weapon they're planning to use, I want to minimize its effectiveness." As the Armada approached Earth's moon, the strange energy readings grew stronger. Science officers across the fleet reported increasing gravitational anomalies. "Sir," Kelver said suddenly, "the lunar surface, it's changing." On the main view screen, the cratered surface of the moon's far side began to shift. Dust and rock flowed away from a circular area nearly 50 kilometers wide. Then, with a soundless eruption visible even from space, the lunar surface broke apart, revealing a massive installation beneath. "Impossible," Draz whispered. "Our intelligence said they had no technology like this." The installation rose from the moon's surface like a giant metal flower blooming. Enormous panels unfolded, revealing what looked like massive cannons. But they weren't pointing at the approaching fleet. They were aiming at the stars. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from Earth," Kelvor reported, his voice shaking. "Put it through," Draz ordered. The view screen changed to show Admiral Walker, standing in what appeared to be a control center deep inside the lunar installation. Behind him, humans worked at control panels, their movements calm and precise. "General Draz," Walker said, his voice even, "I see the Council voted to reject our terms." "This is your final chance to surrender, human," Draz replied. "Your weapon, however impressive, cannot stop 200 warships." Walker smiled slightly. "This isn't a weapon, General. At least, not one designed to target your fleet." He gestured to someone off-screen, and the view changed to show a star map of the galaxy. Several points of light pulsed on the map. "What you're seeing is Project Prometheus, humanity's best-kept secret. For the past 5 years, we've been building similar installations throughout human space." The view switched back to Walker. "You see, General, while the Council was busy stealing our shield designs, you missed what we were really working on: stellar manipulation technology." "Impossible," Draz repeated. "No species has ever managed to affect stellar bodies at a distance." "Until now," Walker replied. "Allow me to demonstrate." He pressed a button on his console, and the enormous cannons on the lunar surface began to glow with blue-white energy. "I suggest you look at the Rigel system, approximately 30 light-years from your current position." Draz signaled to his science officer, who quickly brought up a view of Rigel on a secondary screen. The bright blue star looked normal, until it suddenly flared, growing dramatically brighter for several seconds before returning to normal. "That was a targeted gravitational pulse," Walker explained. "Harmless in this case, just enough to cause a momentary disruption in the star's fusion process. But at higher settings." He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. "We've placed similar installations throughout human space," Walker continued. "They can accelerate stellar aging, temporarily stabilize dying stars, or in extreme cases, trigger supernovas." Draz finished, his mechanical voice flat. Walker nodded. "Exactly. Now look at these coordinates." He transmitted a string of numbers. Kelver quickly entered them into the navigation system, bringing up a view of a remote star system with no habitable planets. As they watched, the unremarkable yellow star in the center of the system suddenly brightened, then erupted in a massive explosion. A stellar flare thousands of times larger than anything natural. "That star will return to normal in approximately 12 hours, Walker said. "No permanent damage done. But it could have been different." The implications were clear. If humans could cause even a small nova effect at will, they could devastate entire star systems. Silence fell over the command deck of the inevitable Victory. Draz's metal fingers gripped the edge of his console so tightly they left dents. "This is your final warning, General," Walker said. "Leave human space permanently. Tell the Council that Earth is now an independent power. We will not accept their authority, and we will defend ourselves by any means necessary." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. "Orders, sir?" Kelver finally asked. Draz stared at the lunar installation, its massive cannons still glowing with power. His logical circuits calculated the odds, analyzed the threat. "Signal the fleet," he said at last. "All ships to withdraw immediately to the rendezvous point outside this system. We're retreating." Kelver's 4 eyes blinked rapidly in surprise. "For now," Draz replied. "The Council must be informed of this development." As the massive fleet began to turn away from Earth, emergency transmissions flooded in from across the galaxy. Other Council worlds had spotted similar demonstrations near their own systems. The humans hadn't just built one stellar manipulation device. They had built dozens, all activating simultaneously. On the lunar base, Admiral Walker watched the Council fleet retreat. Beside him, Lieutenant Reed monitored the system's long-range sensors. "They're leaving, sir," she reported. "All 200 ships." Walker nodded. "But this isn't over. The Morians and Vex won't give up so easily. They'll be back, once they convince themselves we're bluffing about the scale of our capabilities." "Are we bluffing, sir?" Reed asked quietly. Walker didn't answer immediately. He looked at the massive installation around them, the product of Earth's greatest scientific minds, working in perfect secrecy. "Let's hope we never have to find out," he said finally. The emergency meeting of the Galactic Council was nothing like the orderly sessions of the past. Representatives shouted over each other, some demanding immediate surrender to human demands, others calling for an all-out war regardless of the consequences. Arch-Speaker Telvin struggled to maintain order, his 4 eyes darting nervously around the chamber. The massive holographic displays showed images of the human stellar manipulation devices captured by retreating council ships. "Silence," Telvin finally shouted, his voice amplified to painful levels. The chamber gradually quieted. "We must respond to this human threat with unity and resolve," he said when he could be heard. "Our combined forces are still vastly superior to Earth's." Representative Mira of the Lorian Confederation stood up. Unlike the Morians or Vex, the Lorians were a younger species, having joined the Council only 50 years before humans. "Superior forces mean nothing if the humans can destroy entire star systems," she said, her feathered crest rising in agitation. "The Lorian Confederation formally withdraws from any military action against Earth. In fact, we intend to send envoys to negotiate a separate peace." Shouts of "traitor" and "coward" echoed through the chamber, but Mira wasn't alone. One by one, representatives from nearly 30 council species announced similar positions. "This is madness," hissed Commander Draz, now representing the Vex in the council chamber. "The humans are bluffing about the scale of their capabilities. They cannot possibly control dozens of stellar manipulation devices simultaneously." "Can we afford to take that chance?" asked the Trescan delegate, his translucent body pulsing with stress colors. One mistake could mean billions of deaths. The debate raged for hours, but the outcome was clear. The council was fracturing, with most species unwilling to risk further confrontation with humans. By the session's end, only a faction led by the Morians and Vex still advocated for military action. Arch-Speaker Telvin and Commander Draz met privately after the session. "This is a disaster," Telvin said, his skin darkening with anger. "Centuries of council authority, undone in a day." "Not yet," Draz replied, his metallic fingers clicking against the table. "The humans revealed their technology too soon. Our scientists are already analyzing the images. They believe the stellar manipulation effect has severe limitations." "Explain." "The demonstration was impressive, but carefully controlled. We believe the humans can only affect stars of certain types, and only at certain ranges. More importantly, the energy requirements must be enormous." Telvin's upper eyes narrowed. "So you still believe we should attack?" "Not the main Earth system. Not yet. But their outer colonies are likely unprotected by this technology. If we strike fast enough, we can test their capabilities and their resolve." The Arch-Speaker considered this. "The Council won't authorize such action now." "Then we don't ask for authorization," Draz said simply. "The Morian Empire and Vex Imperium have enough ships to launch targeted strikes. Once we expose the humans' bluff, the Council will rally behind us again." And so, while peace envoys from dozens of species traveled toward Earth, a secret fleet assembled in Morian space. 3 battle groups, each targeting a different human colony world. New Eden, Proxima Centauri Base, and the Armstrong mining outpost. The attacks began simultaneously, 48 hours after the council meeting. On Earth, President Anna Foster received the emergency transmission in the middle of the night. The holographic display in her bedroom showed 3 red alerts flashing over human colony worlds. Confirmed reports of Morian and Vex ships attacking all 3 targets, reported Defense Minister Robert Mason, his face grim on the split screen. Civilian casualties already reported on New Eden. Foster was fully awake instantly. "Have they responded to our warnings?" "No, Madam President. They jammed communications before attacking." "They think we're bluffing," Foster said quietly. "Or they're testing which systems we can actually protect." She got out of bed and moved to her desk, activating her secure command interface. Implement Defense Protocol Theta. Priority is protecting civilian populations. Understood, Madam President. Admiral Walker is standing by. The President's screen changed to show Walker at the Prometheus Command Center. Admiral, you're authorized to use minimum necessary force to repel these attacks and protect our people. Keep civilian casualties, ours and theirs, as low as possible. Walker nodded. Yes, Madam President. We've been tracking their fleet movements since they left Morian space. We're ready. Good luck, Admiral. Foster ended the transmission and turned to Mason. Convene the Defense Council immediately. This is the moment of truth. Commander Draz personally led the attack on New Eden, humanity's largest off-Earth colony with nearly 1 million inhabitants. His fleet of 30 warships entered orbit around the peaceful agricultural world and immediately began targeting defense installations. Sir, his tactical officer reported, the human defenses are minimal. Their orbital platforms are already disabled. Draz's circuits hummed with satisfaction. Begin landing ground forces at the main settlement. I want control of their government center within 2 hours. Sir, we're detecting energy surges from the planet's southern pole. Before Draz could respond, space itself seemed to warp around his fleet. Invisible forces gripped the Vex ships, holding them in place. Warning alarms blared across the command deck. Gravitational distortion, shouted the science officer. Massive localized gravity well forming. On the view screen, Draz watched in horror as a small black sphere appeared in space, just 50 kilometers from his fleet. It pulsed with dark energy, growing stronger by the second. Artificial gravity well, Draz realized too late. Maximum reverse thrust. Get us clear. But the ships couldn't move. The gravity well held them in place while somehow not crushing them completely, a level of gravitational control that should have been impossible. A transmission cut through the chaos, and Admiral Walker's face appeared on Draz's command screen. Commander Draz, you seem to be having propulsion problems. Release our ships immediately, Draz demanded. This act of aggression. Aggression. Walker's voice was dangerously quiet. You attacked a peaceful colony. There are children on New Eden. Before Draz could respond, Walker continued, your ships are now held by targeted gravity fields. They will remain there until our evacuation ships have removed every civilian from the planet. Then you will be escorted out of human space. At that moment, reports flooded in from the other battle groups. The same scenario was playing out at all 3 colonies, Morian and Vex ships trapped in artificial gravity wells, unable to move or fight. But the humans weren't done. As Draz watched helplessly, small fast ships appeared from behind New Eden's moon. They weren't warships. They looked more like maintenance vessels, but they carried something far more dangerous than weapons. Sir, his tactical officer's voice shook. The human vessels are attaching devices to our ship's hulls. Within 30 minutes, every Morian and Vex ship in all 3 systems had been tagged with small, blinking devices. Walker's face reappeared on the screen. Those are locator beacons linked to our stellar manipulation network. If any of your ships ever enter human space again, we'll know exactly where to direct a gravitational pulse. The message was clear. Even without destroying the attacking fleets, humans had effectively neutralized them as threats. This isn't over, human, Draz said, his mechanical voice cold. Actually, Commander, Walker replied. It is. Look at your secondary screen. Draz did, and what he saw froze his circuits. Across Morian and Vex space, their military installations, shipyards, and defense platforms were systematically shutting down or exploding. Precision strikes from weapons no one had detected. Faster than light attack drones, Walker explained. Another technology we kept to ourselves. Your military infrastructure will take years to rebuild. His expression hardened. Time you can use to reconsider your position on peaceful coexistence. The transmission ended, leaving Draz staring at the silent command deck of his immobilized flagship, facing the greatest defeat in Vex history. 6 months had passed since the failed attacks on human colonies. The massive space station, where the Galactic Council had met for thousands of years, now floated empty and dark. In its place, a new meeting ground had been established. Neutral ground, an asteroid habitat built specifically for the new era of interstellar relations. Unlike the old council chambers with their tiered seating that placed ancient species like the Morians literally above the newer members, neutral ground featured a perfectly circular table. No position was higher or more prominent than any other. Ambassador Thomas Grant stood by the large viewing window, watching as ships from across the galaxy arrived for the historic first meeting of what was being called the Interstellar Alliance. Behind him, his aide reviewed notes on a datapad. 32 species have confirmed attendance, she reported, including, surprisingly, the Morians and Vex. Grant nodded. Not surprising at all. They have no choice but to adapt. Their military power is broken, their economies in shambles. The door slid open, and Admiral Walker entered the room. He had retired from active service 2 weeks earlier, but President Foster had asked him to attend this meeting as a special advisor. "How does civilian life suit you, Admiral?" Grant asked with a smile. Walker shrugged. "I'm still adjusting. My wife says I keep trying to give orders to our house computer." Both men laughed, but there was an underlying tension. The decisions made today would shape human relations with alien species for generations to come. "Are we doing the right thing?" Grant asked quietly. "We could demand reparations, territorial concessions. We have the leverage." Walker looked out at the stars. "That's what the Morians would do. Or the Vex. But then we'd just be replacing one group of bullies with another." Grant nodded slowly. "A new type of relationship, then. Not based on fear or dominance." "Exactly. That's why we're here." The meeting chamber filled gradually as representatives from 32 former council species took their places around the circular table. The atmosphere was tense, with former enemies now seated side by side out of necessity. Grant took his position at the table, with Walker standing behind him. Across from them sat Archspeaker Telvin, his purple skin now paler, his posture less confident than before. Commander Draz was noticeably absent, replaced by a younger Vex representative. "Representatives of the galaxy's independent worlds," Grant began, "thank you for joining us today. 6 months ago, the old order collapsed. The Galactic Council, for all its achievements, had become corrupt at its core." He tapped a control, and holographic images appeared above the table. Secret documents, covert meeting recordings, evidence of centuries of manipulation. "It wasn't just humans who were targeted," Grant continued. "We found evidence that the Council leadership systematically exploited younger species, stole their technologies, and limited their development." Murmurs spread around the table. Many representatives leaned forward, eyes fixed on the damning evidence. The Lorians were prevented from expanding to 3 habitable worlds in their own system, Grant said, nodding to Representative Mira. The Treskans were denied critical medical technology that could have saved millions during the plague years. The list goes on. Telvin shifted uncomfortably, but remained silent. "Today, we propose a new type of interstellar relationship," Grant continued. "Not a council where some rule over others, but an alliance of equals, where technology is shared rather than hoarded, where disputes are settled through open negotiation, not secret deals." Grant outlined the proposed structure: rotating leadership, transparent voting, joint scientific missions, and mutual defense pacts that protected all members equally. When he finished, the chamber was silent for a long moment. Then Representative Mira stood. "The Lorian Confederation supports this proposal," she said firmly. "We have lived too long under the shadow of the ancient empires." One by one, representatives voiced their support. Some were enthusiastic, others cautious. But the momentum was clear. Finally, only Telvin remained silent. All eyes turned to the Morian. "Archspeaker Telvin, Grant said. The Morian Empire has much to contribute to a peaceful galaxy, but only as equals, not as rulers. Telvin's 4 eyes blinked slowly. For 10,000 years, the Morians guided the younger races. We maintained peace, prevented wars, ensured stability. At what cost? Walker spoke for the first time. You crushed innovation. You kept species dependent on you. You played favorites and punished those who developed too quickly. Like humans, Telvin acknowledged. You achieved in centuries what took us millennia. It frightened us. The admission seemed to cost the Morian physically. His shoulders slumped. The old council is gone, he said finally. The Morian Empire will join your alliance as equals. We have much to learn about cooperation. Later, as the representatives celebrated the historic agreement, Walker and Lieutenant Reed stood apart from the crowd. It worked, Reed said quietly. I still can't believe it worked. Walker nodded. Humans have always been good at bluffing. Reed looked at him sharply. Sir. Walker smiled slightly. Project Prometheus was real. The stellar manipulation technology works exactly as we demonstrated. But he looked around to ensure no one was listening. We only built 3 devices, not dozens, and they can only affect specific types of stars, under perfect conditions. So it was a bluff. Reed asked, astonished. Not entirely, Walker replied. The research was real, just not as advanced as we implied. The artificial gravity wells, the faster-than-light drones, those worked perfectly, but we couldn't actually trigger supernovas. Reed shook her head in amazement. If they had called our bluff. They wouldn't, Walker said confidently. That's what we understood about them, that they never grasped about us. The Morians and Vex live for thousands of years. They're cautious by nature. They won't risk everything on a single confrontation. He looked out at the gathering, where former enemies now talked cautiously but cordially. Humans, on the other hand, evolved facing constant threats. We're used to taking calculated risks, to improvising solutions. That was our real advantage, not technology, but thinking differently. Reed considered this. Do you think it will last? This alliance? Walker watched as Grant engaged in animated conversation with representatives from a dozen worlds, his hands moving expressively as he described some new idea. I think it has a chance, he said. For the first time in galactic history, species are meeting as equals, not as rulers and subjects. He turned to Reed with a small smile. And if anyone tries to disrupt that balance, well, they know what happened to the last group that underestimated humans. In the center of the chamber, the holographic display showed the newly designed emblem of the Interstellar Alliance, a circle of stars, each one shining with equal brightness. No longer would some species stand above others. No longer would advancement be feared and punished. A new age had begun, born from betrayal, but founded on hope. And humanity, once targeted for containment, now stood as architects of a more equal galaxy. The greatest victory, as Walker had noted, was the one achieved without destroying their enemies, but by transforming them into partners.